They call you a kid. They call you a dreamer. But in a place like this, those are death sentences. Most people think failure is the worst thing that can happen. They're wrong. The worst thing is the silence of being ignored while the world laughs at your expense. I spent months in my basement workshop detoxing my mind and chasing shadows. But you don't build a legacy in a safe room. You forge it in the fire of a rigged game. So I brought my 19-year-old ambition to the only place cold enough to kill it, the shipyard. It's a graveyard of giants where the air smells like diesel and the wind off the Atlantic cuts like a razor. Look at these men. They've spent 40 years welding their own cages, and they hate me because I still have a key. Every time I pick up a sledgehammer, I hear the venom in their voices. Go back to school, dropout. Leave the steel to the real men. My hands are raw, my lungs are full of rust, and every muscle in my body is screaming for me to quit. But they don't know my secret. While they're busy laughing, I'm deciphering a code they'll never see coming. A code for the underestimated. Welcome to the shipyard. This is the underdog's code. The veterans take the easy jobs, the welding, the high-profile tasks that get seen. They sent me to the hole, the ballast tanks. It's where they send the rats and the kids they want to break. It's a place of pitch-black suffocating steel and stale air that smells like 40 years of rot and dead water. My scraper sounds like a metronome counting down my sanity in the dark. Clink, clink, clink. Down here, the voices of doubt get loud. They echo off the rusted ribs of the ship. Give up, kid. You're out of your league. You'll never be one of us. I wipe sludge mixed with oil and sweat from my eyes, my breathing heavy in the cramped space. But I realize that this shipyard is just a mirror of the world outside. Everyone is looking for a shortcut to the finish line, but no one wants to do the dirty work that actually builds the foundation. Barnaby stays at the hatch, his small silhouette a constant anchor of light against the blinding daylight of the bay. I'm not dying in this metal coffin. I'm going to own it. If I have to be the ghost in the hull, I will be the most meticulous ghost they've ever seen. When the old-timers hit the bars at 5 o'clock to drink away their bitterness and complain about the economy, I hit my bunker. It's a rented, rusted shipping container, hidden behind the docks that the yard owner forgot existed. They think I'm hiding. They think I'm defeated. I'm not hiding. I'm reloading. Inside this container, I'm not a rust scraper. I'm an architect engineering a future they're too blind to see. I'm designing a mast that uses flexible carbon fiber instead of the rigid, heavy wood they've been using since the 19th century. Too light they laughed when they saw my early sketches. It'll snap like a twig in the first real gale. Yeah, keep laughing. While they're stuck in the past hugging their heavy iron and rotting timber, I'm calculating the physics of the wind. Barnaby rests his head on my grease-stained work boots as I sketch on a table made of scrap wood. This isn't just a drawing. It's a declaration of war against mediocrity. This is the second rule of the underdog's code. Your vision doesn't require their permission to exist. I don't need them to believe in the mast. I only need the mast to stand when their world falls apart. The elite don't fear the genius. They fear the 19-year-old who is willing to outwork them in the dark for 10 years just to take their throne. I stopped talking. I stopped explaining my ideas to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. I became a ghost of pure efficiency. Every morning I arrive at the dock while the moon is still high and the harbor is a graveyard of silence. I sharpen my scrapers and organize my tools while the veterans are still hitting their snooze buttons. I leave when the stars are out, my hoodie smelling of diesel sweat and salt. To the shipyard it looks like Silas has finally been broken. They think I've finally accepted my place as a low-level worker. They couldn't be more wrong. I am entering the silent forge. I am learning the anatomy of ships by touching every rivet. I am observing the failures of the experts, the lazy welds, the rushed paint jobs, the arrogance that leads to disaster. A true success mindset isn't a loud announcement on social media. It's a quiet daily obsession. While others are spending their paychecks at the bar, I'm investing my soul into my craft. I'm not just working. I'm weaponizing my competence until I'm the most dangerous man in the yard. They couldn't break me with the work, so they tried to break my spirit. One morning I arrived at my container to find the door forced open. My prototype mast was snapped in half on the floor. My blueprints, the ones I spent months calculating, were trampled by muddy work boots. There was no note, but the message was louder than a gunshot. "Stay in your place, kid." The rage burned hot in my chest, a raw, primal urge to grab a wrench and find whoever did this. I wanted blood. I wanted the satisfaction of a fight. Barnaby growled low, smelling the intruders, his hair standing up. But then I looked at the mess and realized a success mindset is not about winning the brawl. It's about refusing to play their game on their home turf. If I spend my days seeking revenge, I'm giving them exactly what they want: my focus. I swallowed the venom. I picked up my sketches. I cleaned the mud off the floor. I didn't give them the satisfaction of a single reaction. This is the third rule of the underdog's code. Your peace is your power. When you stop reacting to their provocations, you become untouchable. I wasn't just rebuilding a mast. I was reinforcing my internal fortress. Silence became my armor. For the next month, I didn't speak a word that wasn't strictly necessary for the job. I channeled every insult, every smug look, and every bit of frustration directly into my hands. I built that carbon fiber mast again, but this time it was better. It was lighter. It was a masterpiece of spite and precision. I stopped trying to convince the veterans that my design was the future. I realized that you cannot explain a success mindset to someone who is committed to a mediocre one. Barnaby sat by the door like a tiny furry sentinel, guarding the sanctuary of the shed while I worked through the night. The other workers thought they'd finally crushed me because I was so quiet. They thought I'd finally learned my place in the hierarchy. They were dead wrong. I was just moving all my energy from my mouth to my work. You don't explain your moves to the enemy. You just prepare the strike. I knew that the world only respects results, and a result built in absolute silence is the loudest statement a man can make. Then the Atlantic decided to test the experts. A late October nor'easter ripped through the harbor with a violence that turned the sky black. It was a chaos of gray water and screaming wind. A small traditional wooden vessel, the pride of the shipyard owner, had its main mast snapped like a cheap toothpick by a sudden rogue gust while docked. The heavy wooden beam crashed down, nearly sinking the boat and destroying months of work. The shipyard was in a state of pure panic. The owner needed that boat ready for a high-profile regatta in 3 days, but a traditional wooden replacement takes a week to cure and fit correctly. The experts were running around scratching their heads and crying about delays and lost revenue. They were trapped by the very traditions they used to mock me for questioning. I stood on the pier in the freezing rain, lashing against my hoodie with Barnaby tucked inside my jacket for warmth. I looked at the wreckage of their proven methods. This is the moment every underdog waits for, the moment the proper way fails, and the crazy way is the only way left to survive. I walked up to the panicked owner. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't offer a suggestion. I told him, "I can have a carbon fiber mast on that boat by tomorrow morning," I said. The older man laughed, even in the middle of a disaster, but the owner was desperate enough to listen. "Do it," he barked. "But if it fails, you're out of this yard for good." Silas and Barnaby spent the next 15 hours in a blur of focused adrenaline. No one helped me. I hauled the sleek black mast out of my container alone. I used the moonlight and a single generator to power my tools against the storm. Every bolt I tightened, every cable I secured, felt like punching back at the world that said I wasn't enough. By 3 a.m., my muscles were screaming, and my hands were bleeding again, but I didn't feel the pain. The rain hasn't stopped, but the fire in my chest was hotter. Barnaby stayed awake with me, pacing the deck and barking at the thunder. In the dead of night, I realized that the underdog's code isn't about being the smartest or the strongest. It's about being the one who is still standing and still working when the elite have already gone home. Sunrise brought a cold, clear sky and a crowd of workers who expected to see a disaster. Instead, they saw a miracle. The ship sat perfectly in the water, looking faster and stronger than it ever had in its life. The black mast caught the first light of dawn like a blade of obsidian. The owner stepped on board, gripped the mast with both hands, and tried to shake it. It didn't move. It was solid as a rock. He looked at me sitting on a crate drinking cold coffee, my eyes bloodshot but steady. The veteran workers stood in a circle, silent. There were no jokes, no kid comments. For the first time they saw the man, not the age. True success doesn't need to shout. Its presence is enough to silence every doubter in the room. If Silas's journey is speaking to you, subscribe to Aletheia Flow. We don't just tell stories here. We build mindsets. Silas realized that a success mindset is the only thing that can bridge the gap between where you are and where you truly belong. He didn't just save a boat. He reclaimed his dignity from the giants who tried to steal it. As the ship sailed out for the regatta, I didn't stay for the applause or the apologies. I walked back to my shipping container with Barnaby. I know the underdog's code has been written into my soul now. It's not about the nutmast I built. It's the thukte that I now know I can build anything anywhere, even when the entire world is screaming that I'm not qualified. The world will always have shipyards full of giants who want to keep you small and predictable. They will use your age, your lack of experience, and your crazy ideas as weapons to keep you in the ballast tanks. But they can only win if you let them define what you are worth. If you're tired of being underestimated and you're ready to start building your own code, join our community. Subscribe to Aletheia Flow and let's navigate the storm together. I look at the horizon, a 19-year-old with the eyes of a master craftsman. I know there are bigger ships to build and more violent storms to face. But I am not afraid. I have my code. I have my Barnaby. And I have a success mindset that is as flexible and as unbreakable as the carbon fiber I forged in the dark. Keep building when they laugh. Keep working when they sleep. Your sunrise is coming. This is Aletheia Flow.